Everyone, if we have the, okay, we got to figure out what Thank you, just about that. So, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Metropolitan Transit Commission meeting. We're going to begin with introductions of those members as well as those members who are here and in person, and then we'll go to the others that if there's anyone online or in the Zoom call for us. So I'm Vi Lyles, and I serve as chair for the program that we have tonight. All right.
I'm Rusty Knox. I'm Mayor of Davidson, and I am Vice Chair of the MTC.
Good evening. My name is Lee Altman, County Commissioner serving at large, and I also have the privilege of serving as Vice Chair of the County Commission.
Tony Lathrop, NCDOT Division 10 Rep and Board Chair.
Andrew Grant, Town Manager, Cornelius.
Right.
Ryan Spitzer, Town Manager of Pineville.
David Phillips, Mayor of Pineville.
Brian Welch, Mint Hill Town Manager.
Brad Thomas, City Attorney's Office.
Marcus Jones, Charlotte City Manager.
Brent Cagle, Interim CEO, CATS.
All right. If we have anyone that's online, we begin with their introductions. Please introduce yourself. I don't know that I see.
Jamie Justice, Town Manager, Davidson.
Thank you, Jamie. Let's see, is there anyone else?
Bill Thunberg, Boardville Representative.
Bill Thunderbird, thank you very much. Bill, it's good to hear you. Anyone else?
L. Joe Waslowski, City of Concord.
All right, thank you. Welcome to the program for this afternoon. All right, thank you for those attending in person and online, and we have one more person to introduce himself.
Hey, good evening. Mike Bryant, Mecklenburg County Manager.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mike Bryant. So, before we get started, I want to acknowledge that our community continues to work on a number of issues that was brought to the forefront since the tragic murder of Ariana Zaruski. I'd like to just ask all of us to take a moment of privilege and to bow our heads just to reflect on any way that we can to recognize the loss that she has been. Thank you, everyone. You know, we often talk about public safety very broadly, but there are several key aspects within public safety that have broad impacts on our community. It is both law enforcement and security, as well as how we feel where we live, and access to mental health care, our judicial systems. All of these things are important and all impact how safe our community is and how safe our community feels. You know, Charlotte is a wonderful place to be. All of us that are here today recognize the opportunities that this community gives to us. But just even this past weekend, out of all of the things that we had to do, we had to recognize that we have needs to do things in a more safely way. Now, I'm going to say this, and I want to say it, but we also continue to address our community, especially the opportunities that we have in our side of our city. So I believe there was a big soccer game that was held on the FC goalie, who I think is Messi. I think the goalie stopped 3 people with the people in the program or in the goalie side. I'm not, you can tell I'm not that person, but my son tries to tell me what I do all the time. And so what I'd like to say is that we all have families, we all have people that we care about, and we ought to recognize that what we've been doing has led us to a wet place that we all have to look and respect and look at what's different and what we must need to do. So thank you as we talk about this. You know, I want to say that we're thriving in every corner of our community, and we will continue to focus with all of our partners on the opportunities that we can do to make sure that our city is safe. In many ways, we know that public transit is an example of our society. It is a broad cross-section of people coming together in one place, but it also provides opportunity and a connection that transit can bring us to our community together. We know that we have to have the ability to move people around our community. Later in our meeting, we will have an update from CAT's leadership on the safety and security measures that have been put in place and other measures that will begin soon. I also want to acknowledge just last night, we reached another milestone. The Board of County Commissioners voted to stand up, Mecklenburg County Commissioners voted to stand up a transit authority and signed off on the Memorandum of Understanding, joining all of the final jurisdiction in this county to come together. I want to recognize and acknowledge Commissioner Lee Altman for all the work that she's done to make that possible. It's really the hard work that really makes the difference. And so I also want to say that we are all excited to begin an application process now that we have everyone on board. The applications, we want this board to be a part of our community. We want to invite all the community members who are interested into applying for the authority. We want you to do so. The application's open today. You can visit the City of Charlotte's website, you can visit the Mecklenburg County website, and you can visit any one of the town's website to apply to be a part of what we are doing differently as we continue to push forward. I want to acknowledge that we do this in conjunction with every member of this commission, all of the towns, all of the places that participate. The opportunity is before our voters to invest in a stronger system, a more accessible system, and connections that will change lives for generations. This is the moment that we've worked so hard for. And I'm going to turn the Commission's attention now to the approval of our minutes, our meeting summaries. So with that, Mr. Cagle, can I have a motion and a second and a vote to approve all of the meeting summaries?
Motion to approve the summaries in the minutes.
Second.
Thank you very much. These meetings were 2025, July 30th, 2025, and September 3rd, 2025. So we have a motion on the floor for approval of the summaries and a second. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor, please raise your hands. I think that's unanimous, so thank you very much. Next, we will have a report from the Public Transit Advisory Committee. Alyssa Calderhead, the co-chair of PTAC, has submitted a written report. But Alyssa, do you have any comments that you would like to make to the board tonight?
No, in the interest of time, I'll just direct you to the report on page 23 of your binder. And you'll find that it outlines the 3 meetings that we've had in July, August, and September. And I'll open it up to any questions or feedback you have at this time.
All right, thank you very much for the work that you guys are doing. And we really hope that any time that you have the ability or have the suggestion for us to join us and provide that report, it makes a big difference. Thank you very much. Next, we have public comments. Tonight, we have more than 15, or I believe we have 13 speakers tonight that want to address the commission. And so because we have that number, our rules are that each speaker gets 2 minutes total to address the commission. And so we're going to do this in the order that I have listed here for the names of people, and then we will ask you to come to the podium. And when you hear the timer, please end your comments so that we can have the next person up and ready to express the comments that they would like to make. So the first speaker is Brendan McGinnis. Mr. McGinnis, are you here? Mr. McGinnis is not here, so. All right, our next speaker is J.G. Lockhart. Mr. Lockhart?
Good evening. I'm J.G. Lockhart, and I stand before you as a Charlottean who has watched promises made, too often broken, and Mecklenburg County taxpayer dollars misspent since the Transit Governance Interlocal Agreement was signed 26 years ago. Let me be clear. Charlotte deserves a mass transit system that truly works, integrating roads, buses, and rail. But this plan in its current form does not move us closer to that goal. A system that lasts must be built from the inside out, starting with Charlotte before it can serve the entire region. You will hear the talking points again and again. Speed and reliability will improve. Let's be honest, this proposal doesn't actually solve for that, especially for the residents being asked to foot the majority of the bill. As a transportation and logistics specialist for over 30 years, I understand how transportation systems work and how to move people and things efficiently. I urge us not to lock Charlotte into another 30-year plan without fixing the fundamentals. 1, promises versus reality. With the half-cent tax increase from 1998, we were told we'd get a defined set of projects. Only a few came to pass. We cannot repeat history. We need a clear accounting of what went wrong and why promised deliverables didn't materialize. 2, equity and representation. Charlotte residents will fund 85% of the cost, yet the proposed voting structure doesn't give Charlotte majority say. If we're paying the most, we should have a stronger voice in how those dollars are spent. Growth ignored. The plan doesn't reflect the Charlotte of today or tomorrow. Steel Creek, for example, one of our fastest growing areas, is barely addressed. If Mecklenburg enters this together, every municipality needs must be considered, centered on Charlotte's core network so the whole region actually works. Safety and trust. Public safety must be central. Solving rider fare accountability and enforcement is a must. Lost fares and lax controls erode both safety and public trust. Don't ask residents for more until we show their daily rides will be safer and more reliable. 5, ownership and control. Giving away CAT's ownership or long-term control is significant. Let's be certain this pass is in Charlotte's best interest because we have the most to lose if it isn't.
Thank you very much for your comments, Mr. Lockhart. Our next speaker is Louis Dedner, Jr. Is Mr. Dedner here? All right. Our next speaker is Diana Gentry.
With husband in tow.
My name is Diana Giles Gentry. I'm a retired 40-year international flight attendant with American Airlines. I have traveled the world over, so security, I could talk all day about it. One of my main reasons for coming is like I did on the 3rd, and thank you, Mayor Lyles, for that meeting on the 3rd. It was very informative. But the security issue is a major problem. Having traveled around the world, and my husband, Greer Gentry, who was a supervisor for the Minneapolis-St. Paul Transit Authority, could even tell you more. But I know a lot of people don't want to hear this, but police, police, police. Those uniforms make a difference. We have been here 11 years. We use the transit system on a regular basis. Never have our tickets been checked. Never has anybody come to ask us anything. So that's my major reason for being here, and my husband could explain just a little bit more about how things work in Minneapolis-St. Paul.
All right. Mr. Gentry, you have 2 minutes as well.
Good evening. My name is Greer Gentry. I live here in the outskirts of Mecklenburg County, around the county line. My main purpose for speaking today is the security of the transit system. Should I say the lack of ineffectiveness of the transit system. What happened a couple weeks ago to this young lady is very sad. Working as a manager for Metro Transit in Minneapolis-St. Paul for over 20 years, anything can happen on a given day. But I like to focus more so on ridership and revenue for the transit system. If what we called in Minneapolis was transit police, they had their own police department. The presence of these policemen on our security lines, on our transit lines, were very meaningful. People saw that. Ridership increased. People saw that Metro Transit cared about their safety on the transit system. The police didn't ride every bus, or they weren't on every train, but they developed a system where they on and off. They had people scanning tickets. And that's a big thing. Like my wife said, we ride the transit system. We ride it to weekends, weekdays, to events. Never have we had anyone to check our tickets. And now, since this horrible event that happened a couple of weeks ago, we are cautious about where we are on that train.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, and thank you for providing us your advice and experience. Thank you very much, both of you. All right, our next speaker is Eric Zavarel.
Good evening, members of the MTC and city staff. My name is Eric Zavarel. I'm the Urban Design Specialist at the St. Charlotte. We've been advocating for 15 years to increase mobility and transportation options in the county. And in light of this recent tragic murder of Irena on the light rail, we want to share our perspective with you all and other transportation experts as well throughout the nation to better understand and respond to these violent attacks. We understand the urgency of ensuring public safety. It is a fundamental piece. You could have the best designed city, the extensive miles of light rail, convenient frequent bus system, but it's not enough if safety concerns persist or it's perceived to be unsafe. It undermines all of the work that you all do, that we do, and in the infrastructure investment in itself. However, this is a big however, We are very concerned that CATS and transit overall are unfairly bearing the blame and even being used as an excuse not to invest into further transit improvements. And is being pressured just to simply add security measures, which won't solve the issues that led to this tragedy. Experts say that it wasn't a failure of transit, but a result of untreated mental illness, homelessness, reflecting a broader national issue. It's not just a Charlotte problem. And as other experts have mentioned, like Todd Littman, who is the director of the Victoria Transport Policy Institute, explains, such attacks certainly are not exclusive to public transit systems. And importantly, transit is made safer when more people are riding it. As they say, eyes on the street. So, sorry. But one other thing, we are talking to communities. We invite you, if you want us to come speak, we'd be more than happy to help inform the community.
Thank you,
on the work
Eric.
we're
If you
doing.
have any notes that you would like to leave with us, then we would be able to distribute them. Thank you very much. All right, Larry Shaheen.
Good evening, all. Madam Mayor, Madam Vice Chairman, members of the MTC and managers, and those watching. My name is Larry Shaheen. I'm an attorney at the McIntosh Law Firm. I also serve as a trustee at UNC Charlotte, one of our largest institutions served by the light rail. And I've also been honored to be a part of the implementation team, part of the group helping with the transportation initiative. And I felt it was really important to come today to talk about the fact that our entire team and our entire group that's been part of this effort wishes to keep Irina's name and thoughts in our memory as we move forward, because I want to really say that the fact that we talk through safety every day and things like this could happen, and I'm not 100% sure that if there had been a police officer or a security officer sitting in the back that it could have prevented it. But I do know that with the foresight of this group, led by you, Madam Mayor, to be able to put this initiative on the ballot, we can put forever to rest the question of whether or not we have the resources able to conquer and deal with these issues. I hear folks in opposition constantly say, well, no, we have to wait for a better plan. Well, I got to tell you, there's a family out there that really is probably pretty tired of waiting. There's a whole community sitting in traffic that's really tired of waiting. There's a whole bunch of us who are absolutely tired of waiting. And I got to tell you, I hear people talk, let's wait for a better plan. Let's try to make it better. It's the best it's ever going to be. And you know what? The one thing that I know, after having worked on this and been a part of this group for the last 2.5 years, is that this community can come together and has an opportunity to come together to solve the problems facing it today. And on November 4th, I really do hope that we rise together as a community to help make this situation better. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shaheen. Our next speaker is Corbin Smith.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. Two things I want to say at the outset. First, I do support the plan for the 1 cent sales tax and the transportation plan. And second, I'm generally in your corner. I ride the Blue Line. I took the Blue Line here on the way. But, well, I feel safe riding the train. I always have. But my neighbors don't. And my neighbors hadn't before the incident that we're all here to talk about today, and they certainly don't now. And I understand that a lot of that is not your fault. I understand that CATS cannot play Atlas for problems involving homelessness, involving crime, but it is your responsibility because people do feel uniquely vulnerable in a public space like a train. I mainly want to address the security measures that we have in place right now. First, I know that the FTC, the FTA is threatening to pull federal funding if we don't get fare checking. I am aware that we pulled in $20 million last year out of a to cover operating expenses of $280 million, based on your financials. I think we do need to check fares. I think that's not just a safety measure, but something that'll help us to get a more resilient system. Second, I have not been impressed with the security that we have currently. I've never seen them check fares. They often kind of stand around and look intimidating. I know we had a flight attendant speaking earlier, and I think that's kind of fortuitous because that's a really good model. If you disobey the instructions of a flight attendant, that's a federal crime. They can remove you from the plane if need be, and that's how they keep airplanes safe. I think we need a similar model, keeping in mind not just the security aspects of it, but that it's also a customer service job. I encountered this in Phoenix. They answered questions, about how to use the system, good experience, and keep people safe on the train. Third, to combat perception, we do have to worry about quality of life crimes. So trash, disorder on the train. These things directly impact perception. I think these things directly impact ridership. There are things that my neighbors cite all the time for why they will not take the train. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So our next speaker is David Howard.
Good evening. It's kind of weird being over here. My name is David Howard. I am a former Charlotte City Council member, former chair of the Planning Commission, and worked at the local and the state and the federal level. But before all that, I was a kid riding on the number 16 bus on the way to school because my mother had to be at work early in the morning. For my family, and like so many others, public transportation is not just a convenience, it's about opportunity. That's why the recent murder on the light rail system weighs on me heavily. And Mayor, you know it weighs on me heavily. My heart goes out to the woman and her family. And safety must be, as so many other people say, the foundation of a fair transit system. Riders must feel protected. Families must trust the system. But there are other things that we also need to take into consideration. True safety depends on a system that also works. A system that doesn't expand becomes overcrowded, unreliable, and leaves riders waiting too long to travel too far. These conditions themselves are a safety risk. If we're serious about protecting people, we must also be serious about developing a system that has efficient service, frequency, and enough reach to make sure that this full community is being serviced. For over half of the people that ride the bus, transit is their only option. They don't own a car, and we know that 60% of that ridership is African American, people who are working dependent on transit to get to their jobs, their schools, their doctors. A system that is overcrowded or too limited is not good for riders and vulnerable, makes the system vulnerable as well. It's also about our seniors. Seniors that have to wait on FITS routes often don't have the ability to live in place. So let's remember the convenience that microtransit will give them. I'm trying to get 3 minutes down to 2 minutes. That's why I'm going fast. And I didn't make it. So just remember, a system that works is just as important as a system that is safe. So let's make sure we make the investments.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. Our next speaker is Craig Rittenberg.
Well, thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Craig Rentenberg. I've now attended 3 of the meetings on cat security. The first was the MTC special meeting 12 days after the murder of Irina Zarutska. The second was the PTAC meeting on September 10th. That was 19 days after, and now today, 26 days since the murder, we're still here talking about it. First 2 meetings repeated basically the same presentation at both, and I expect we're going to probably see the security review the same as those previous 2 meetings. Just to recap, in the presentation, Mr. Cagle went over 4 key areas. One was the size and scope of CAT's network, which is Gold Line and Blue Line buses. He also presented results from a rider survey, which showed that in that particular survey, most people believed the system was safe. But I'd like to see what's behind that data, and I think after the murder, I think that the survey would be a little different. He also talked about the camera infrastructure, and while CATS has strong cameras, they rarely prevent the crime. They're good at catching the criminal after the fact. He also talked about staffing. There's supposedly 186 security staff, and possibly increasing to 219, but where are these staff? Those of you who ride, you don't see people around. They're easy to spot. They have chartreuse shirts. Just as little progress needs to be made inside these meetings, which is what I observed, I see little progress outside on the streets. Also, I suspect most of the crimes that are committed by people boarding without paying, often homeless, often struggling with mental illness, and they're not stopped at the door due to lack of security presence or ticket validation. Arrests mean little if offenders are immediately released back into the public. We saw this with Carlos Brown. To this day, I don't understand why prosecutions don't happen. If criminals face no consequences, why have police or city attorneys at all? What's the point? This, at its core, is a mayoral issue, I think, all of you, from a mayoral perspective. Bottom line, I hear talk about as a regular rider, I see no changes. When will CATS provide a clear timeline and demonstrate security improvements? Finally, no expansion on any line should move forward until security on the current system is improved. The CATS can't manage what they have now. How are they going to manage something bigger? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hopefully, we'll have more information for you. Our next speaker is Robert McCutcheon.
Good evening. My name is Robert McCutcheon. I'm the president and CEO of the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance. I want to thank you for allowing me to speak for a short time here, and I want to thank the MTC for their really important work tonight. Let me, excuse me, start out by saying, as we all know, this was just an unbelievably tragic and senseless act of violence. Our hearts go out to Ms. Zarutska's family, and certainly we share the concern of the entire community. It hits so close to home. I'm sure for so many in this room living in Charlotte, for me and my family, we live about 1 mile from where this incident occurred. So it really does hit so close to home, such a horrendous thing happening right here in our backyard. The senseless killing brings key issues like safety, mental illness, and the failures of our court system to the forefront. Our stakeholders are committed to working with the city and the state to strengthen the court system to better serve and protect our residents. We also support the approach raised by the city and the mayor to add more police in our communities and to consider ways to ensure magistrates keep violent offenders in custody. We must partner with state leaders also to address failures in the court system. This is a safety issue, and action must be taken to ensure residents can feel safe wherever they are in our community. But it's also a failure of our mental health system, and action needs to be taken to make immediate improvements to how the system treats and medically cares for individuals. Our community has many priorities. Safety is leading among them. Safety must be prioritized in our public transit system as well. The community-backed referendum that we have today will provide a key part of the solution. It will provide money needed to commit to strong professional security and policing to protect riders.
Thank you.
We have to have confidence the authority will be committed to addressing security as a #1 part of our transportation plan. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. McCutcheon. Our next speaker is Harrison Hunter. Harrison Hunter. Okay. I believe that covers all of the speakers that I had. Is there any? No, thank you very much. So for all of you that came to address our commission, I want to say thank you for being a part of what we're trying to do and to do well for this community. We understand a lot of the comments that you've made will help us do that. And that's why we're grateful for you coming tonight, because we have much to learn and much to do. So thank you, everyone, this evening. You're welcome to stay as long as you would like to continue to be a part of this meeting and as we move forward. So we've had our public comments, and now we conclude that portion of our meeting. And next, we're going to hear from Brent Cagle for his CEO report.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the MTC. I'll start with a couple announcements. One is just administrative in nature. I'd like to let the members of the MTC know, as well as the public know, that the October meeting had originally been scheduled for 10 a.m. It will be shifted to 5:30 p.m., the normal start time. That will be reflected both in the public calendar as well as we will be sending out amended invites to the members of the MTC. I also want to point out that in your binder this month, you all have some information. It's moving forward together. I want to compliment staff, not only from CATS, but throughout the city, the Urban Design Department, as well as corporate communications. This is a summary of the 2055 transit system plan, that the MTC approved and updated earlier in the year.
Mr. Cagle, may I ask a clarifying question about that?
Yes, ma'am.
So what we see in here is what we would have if the transit plan passes? If the 1 cent sales tax passes. So,
Yes, so this is the approved 2055 transit system plan. It is not financially feasible unless the 1 cent sales tax passes.
so I just wanted to be clear, all the great things in here are contingent upon a successful referendum.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, are there any other questions for Mr. Cagle? Okay, we have one action, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I have a few more items.
Okay, I thought so, but I wasn't sure.
Just a couple more.
Okay.
Also, to just remind members that applications to serve on the board of the Metropolitan Public Transportation Authority have opened today and will remain open through October 13th, 2025, for the city of Charlotte and the Mecklenburg County. There is an alternate date as outlined for the other members of the MTC. It's outlined in the MOU, but just making that announcement. Next thing is, you're all aware, but it's included in your packet. CATS received letters from the FTA, from Joe DiLorenzo. He's the Deputy Administrator over Safety and Security, giving CATS 15 days to provide a response to the information request. We are working on that and fully intend to satisfy the request and continue working with the FTA moving forward as they go through the review. As well, the Office of the State Auditor sent us a letter asking for some of the same information, but asking for information that is due this Friday. Again, we are working through that and will comply fully with the information request from the State Auditor's Office. I do want to talk about something that is not in your safety stats. There was an incident on Monday regarding commercial activities conducted on one of our Blue Line trains. Specifically, a music video was being filmed on the Blue Line train. Our security was alerted to this activity. They immediately responded and removed the individuals conducting that commercial activity from the train and escorted them off property. We are also reviewing all of our security footage. We will be issuing exclusions to the individuals involved. They did not coordinate or consult with CATS before conducting the commercial activities, which could pose safety or other issues to themselves, to the public, and to our system. So we will be issuing exclusions for those individuals involved in those commercial activities. And we will continue reviewing with our other partners, federal and local, to determine if any other actions are necessary. On the monthly stats, I've provided you a summary of monthly statistics. They are on page 29. There were 3 reportable incidents in August in the bus operations division. They were all traffic accidents involving a bus. And And there were, the buses sustained some damage, and there were a variety of minor injuries associated with the operators and passengers of those vehicles. There were no reportable incidents in August for paratransit, and obviously the rail division had one reportable incident in August, the murder of Irina Zarutska. For ridership summary, our on-time performance in August was actually, it was not at our stated goal of 85%, but it is higher than it has been since we've been reporting that monthly to the MTC. It was at 83.8% on-time performance overall. 14.7% of those trips were late and 1.5% were early. This is the lowest since May of 2020. On ridership, we did see declines in ridership this month, a 6.6 decrease in ridership for local bus. We did see increases in express, a 2% decrease in rail ridership. However, the gold line remained even. CAT's planning staff is investigating the factors that could have led into those declines for August, and microtransit ridership continues to be steady and strong, serving 5,917 passengers for the month of August. The sales tax report included in your binder is on page 43. We now have a full fiscal year of reporting. We ended up the year about where we projected. That was slightly lower than the budgeted number, but as we went through the year, we modified our projections and it ended up right in line with our projections. With that, I will conclude my CEO report.
And so are there any questions for Brent as a part of his report tonight? Any comments or questions?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Ms. Alton, Ms.
Thank you. Mr. Cagle, I see in the notes that there's a $3 million sales tax revenue shortfall. Can you talk to us about that?
So that's from the budget. And so again, we had already adjusted our operating expense estimates to account from that.
And was that because just commercial activity was lower than projected?
Sales taxes came in slightly lower than anticipated over the year.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, if hearing no additional questions, we'll continue on to the next item on our agenda. We are now going to move towards a discussion that we would have about the Transit Authority.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Mayor, members of MTC, I have a brief presentation. This is an action item, so we will give it just a second to come up. Okay, next slide, please. So just a timeline. The legislation, the PAVE Act, was passed by the General Assembly July 1st, 2025. July 30th, the MOU was established. Again, moving through August and September. We now have all appointing members of the MTC have approved the MOU related to next steps for appointments to the board. That MOU establishes the board or all appointments complete December 12th of 2025. Applications, as I mentioned earlier, for the authority board close October 13th, 2025 for Charlotte, the city of Charlotte and Mecklenburg County, November 7th for other communities in line with the MOU. November 4th is the election day. I'm sorry, I went backwards. So November 4th, moving to the 7th and the 12th. The point of this is there are, in the PAVE Act, there are 6 initial studies that are required to be submitted to the General Assembly on December 31st, 2025. There are a series of additional studies beyond the first 6, but they are not due to the General Assembly until July 1st, 2026. And so we're focused on the first round of studies that are statutorily required to be sent to the General Assembly December 31st, 2025. Next slide, please. Oops. So the initial studies required by the legislature, it is 6, it's really 5. The 6th is any other issue determined to be relevant. But the first 5 are outlined in state law, in the PAVE Act. The first is legal and financial considerations with respect to the transfer or use of assets. The second is legal and financial considerations with respect to outstanding indebtedness issued by the City of Charlotte associated with CATS or the transit system. The third is legal and financial considerations with respect to agreements and recognitions by the City of Charlotte or CATS with respect to the public transportation system with any federal, state, regional, or local governmental entities. The fourth is legal and financial considerations with respect to human resources of a transfer of assets, liabilities, and operations of the public transportation system from the City of Charlotte or CATS to the authority, including issues related to, but not limited to, employee pensions, retirement plans, and benefits. And the fifth is simply a recommendation as to whether the transfer of assets, liabilities, and operations of the existing public transportation system to the authority is feasible and advisable, and then any other issues determined to be relevant. That is the scope of work, so to speak, as defined in state statute and required to be submitted at the end of this calendar year. Next slide, please. So we come before you tonight for consideration of a recommendation to allow staff or direct staff to engage a consulting team with legal, financial and bond experience, transfer of assets and human resources experience to satisfy those studies. That work will not exceed $500,000, and it is associated with the MTC's discretionary fund as established in the interlocal agreement Second Amendment, which was approved last year. And all work will cease if the referendum does not pass on November 4th. At such time, we would pay final invoices and work would cease with the contractors. So we seek an action from the MTC directing staff to move forward with completing these initial studies.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to direct staff to move forward with completing the initial studies utilizing the $500,000 MTC discretionary funding.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or question?
I'd like to ask a question. Do we have any idea of what it would cost us if the referendum is not passed? At that point, what would we owe out of that amount?
We do not know. So we are in process of identifying the consulting team, whether that's consultant or consultants. We're identifying that. At that point, we will have an idea of how much the studies will cost in totality, and we can give you a rough estimate of where we think the work would be should it cease on November 4th. But we can come back with that information as we have it.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we have a motion on the floor to adopt the recommendation that's right before you today. So all in favor, please raise your hands. Anyone opposed? No one opposed. So the motion passes. Thank you. I know this is a lot of work, and you guys have been doing a lot of this, but we really know that this is where we want to be. But I think what we all know is that we really want to have the opportunity to really have a discussion from the staff about our security updates and some of the results that we had, that we want to see where we are and what's going to be going on. So, Brent, I know that this is the second or third one, but I would appreciate the opportunity for you to put as much effort in this as possible for us. Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am. I will ask Eric Osnes to come to the podium. Eric has been working diligently with the safety and security team as well as with CMPD. He has a brief update on where we are at today and what are some of the current efforts underway, what are some of the short-term efforts that will be deployed, as well as thinking about the longer-term efforts.
Thank you, Brent. Just want to deliver a little bit of information about our current security posture in relation to the tragic events of August 22nd. Next slide. Our third-party security team, PSS, has advised us that they are currently fully staffed and that their deployment plan for the Blue Line is fully operational. Their staff will be reinforced each day by 20 off-duty CMPD officers that are fully integrated into each shift. The combined forces increases our presence both on station platforms and on our trains. And as part of this posture, we're continuing to conduct fare blitzes to connect with our customers and enforce compliance, ensuring that safety and accountability are visible throughout our system. Next slide. So beginning of next week, we'll be rolling out specialized patrols using bikes and utility vehicles. This will expand visibility and allow our security personnel to engage with the rail trail in ways not previously possible. Looking ahead to mid-October, we are equipping our customers with more tools through e-alerts, enabling them, our customer base, to serve as partners and to continue as a force multiplier so that they're communicating with our security staff. These upgrades will give our security team real-time observations and actionable leads, improving response times and interdictions. I also want to speak a little bit about the fare zone at the CTC. The fare zone will be expanded at the CTC, which will give us enforcement opportunity for the entire establishment. This is part of a plan that occurred before August 22nd, and that so fare evasion citations, as you can see, are on track to exceed 2024 numbers with approximately 4 months left in the year. This represents consistent policing, but is only one of the many behaviors we are monitoring. Year over year, the number of exclusions is up as PSS is using this as a tool per our policy and as a consistent part of the security strategy. This is something that's, I don't want to say new, it's been part of the practice, but it's really taking on a more consistent base on how we're evaluating behaviors on our systems, how we're documenting behaviors that are adverse on our systems, and how we're looking and adjudicating what's happening on our systems. I would like to add that we did an analysis of Part 1 offenses, and that Part 1 offenses are considered more serious crimes. They're more violent crimes. And we found that incidents on CAT's property, as it relates to the community that we serve, only represents approximately 2% of the total number of Part 1 offenses. So I think if we're trying to look at the number of the more serious violent crimes that are occurring on CAT's property in relation to the community that we're interfacing with, we, as part of our analysis, we could see that's only a very small part of the total.
Mr. Osnes, I apologize, I know you're on a roll here, but I think you misspoke in a significant way.
Oh.
I believe you meant to say 0.2 of 1%.
0.2. I very much apologize.
2% is a very low number. 0.2 of 1% is a very,
yes.
very low number.
0.2. So that really ends my briefing. If there's any questions that I can provide on security and the current posture, I'll be happy to do so.
What's the time frame for this document? Was it something that happened, or when did you have the opportunity to get this data?
When did I get the opportunity to get this data?
Do the data, yes.
This data is part of our tracking process. That's how these are key performance indicators. This is how we judge our security posture. This is how we judge activities as it relates to our security posture. So I would say that this is really part of our current business process.
Thank you.
And Madam Mayor, I will also say, we know that fare evasion must be addressed. We know that fare evasion can lead to other things. One of the things I do want to point out here is evaluating fare evasion by simply looking at the number of citations doesn't provide the full picture. And that's why we wanted to talk about what we call exclusions. And exclusion is simply what it sounds like. If someone is violating the rules, the rider rules, they can and are excluded for 6 months, for a year, or indefinite. And I want to explain the indefinite because we know transit is an essential service for many people. An indefinite exclusion does not mean that that person can never use transit again. What it means is the responsibility is on that person to come to CATS and explain why they should be allowed back into the system versus the exclusion just automatically expiring after a point in time. I'll give you an example. Say someone is committing crimes on transit or not paying their fares, and they end up being indefinitely excluded. They come back to us after a year or two and say, look, at that point, my life was different. I was addicted to substances, and I was going down the wrong path. But since then, I have gotten clean and now am working and doing those things. CATS can evaluate those situations and allow those persons to be reintroduced or the exclusion lifted. So I do want to let you know that we take exclusions very seriously, but that is an increase because we are also taking very seriously accountability and responsibility of those who may be constantly breaking the rules associated with the use of transit.
Ms. Altman?
Thank you. So who's issuing the citation? What is the actual punishment?
It's all scalable based on severity of behavior. So when a citation is issued for a behavior that's not associated with fare evasion, that's documented through a citation. The individual that's associated with that at-risk behavior is evaluated, and it's evaluated through our security team. Our policy dictates, again, that scalable level of exclusion based on severity of the behavior.
And Ms. Altman, depending on, so also the fare evasion citations themselves are a $50 civil citation.
Okay, so it's not just a matter of being excluded, there's also a penalty.
Yeah, so the $50 civil citation is one tool. What I will say is if someone has been issued citations or is conducting themselves in a more serious manner, our security does not, let's say there is an altercation on a bus. They will go to an exclusion for the physical altercation. They do not then also issue a fare evasion ticket. They go straight to the most serious offense. The other piece of this, and we are starting to track this, we have not, but the other piece of this that we don't see, and that's why we will track it, is we call them positive interactions. It's not that every person who we approach who hasn't paid ends up getting a ticket. Some of them say, I'll happily buy that ticket right now. And that's a positive interaction. And so we do have education efforts as well to gain compliance with buying the ticket. And that has not historically been tracked, but we are starting to track that immediately.
Well, I know that we've talked about this, and, I think it would be good to make it very clear inside and outside that it's illegal to ride the train without paying a fare, and to consider not just allowing someone to pay the fare when they get busted, but having a consequence, because really, if they only have to pay once they've been busted, not paying, there's really not a downside to hoping they don't get caught, So I definitely want us to have more done around that. And then how does this Part 1 offenses sort of play with or coexist with misdemeanors and felonies and CMPD and law enforcement that exists outside the train? How does that Part 1 offense structure work with our regular structure of criminal offenses?
Part 1 offenses are more serious, violent type crimes. And we wanted to really break down having an understanding of what the elements that relate to the definition of a Part 1 crime, which again is a much more serious, violent type behavior. How are those most serious, violent type behaviors relate to the communities that we interface with? What percentage of our type 1, Part 1 crimes, as it relates to what's happening within the surrounding community, what does that look like? What is that relationship?
And we can provide you a list of all Part 1 offenses in North Carolina. So these are criminal offenses defined by the state of North Carolina, and they are things like aggravated assault or
Use
other
of a
serious,
weapon.
yeah.
Yes.
So we can get you a full documentation of Part 1 offenses.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Mr. Lathrop?
Just a very quick follow-up. If somebody's excluded, how do you track them? How do you know? How do you keep them off?
Yeah, so today, but again, we can talk about future. Today, there's two things that happen, and sometimes either of them can happen. They are known, right? I think people forget that, especially with the bus system, bus drivers get to know people. And so they may see them and say, wait a minute, we know that you're excluded, and contact security. That does not always happen. And so they can enter the system, and then if they continue violating rules, security will then increase the exclusion, right? So if they have been excluded for 6 months and they enter the system again and there's another incident, that exclusion then can be increased, or it could go to Part 1 or to criminal charges. So what about the next state, right? How do you use that in a proactive way? We are working with our camera system, our software provider, eLerts, to identify proactive tools that will help security identify those folks who are not supposed to be using the system as they're entering the system, and then we can work to remove them from the system before there is an issue or a second issue that occurs. And so we are currently working with the software provider, or the technology system that we have is called eLerts, and we are working with that. We are also looking at other technology providers to identify things like the use of AI to be able to identify those folks, because we have pictures of all of them, right? We know exactly who they are. And so we're working with our current provider, eLerts, to increase the product we use that gives us better visibility and allows us to be more proactive. And we're looking to see if there are additional products on the market out there that would integrate the use of AI to possibly flag folks who have been excluded and notify security.
Are we talking, like, when you say AI, are we talking facial recognition software and things like that?
Yes.
Okay.
I would also like to add that our CMPD partners they have information related to any citation that we provide, any exclusion that we provide. It goes into their database. So if they are encountered by CMPD, they have the ability to garner information about that individual, and that would key them onto what level of exclusion that they're under, or if there are a number of citations that are associated with the individual. So there is information sharing that goes on.
Right. Any other questions? Yes.
I have one, or basically a partial question and comment, and when we met back on September the 3rd, I made the comment that night that I'm certainly no expert in public transportation, but I have been in law enforcement for 30 years. My concern is looking at the people as far as the fare evasion for year to date in 2025. If we're aware of 1,570, my guess is that we're probably still missing another 2/3 of that. A lot of these people are boarding at these light rail stations where I have actually witnessed them walk right onto the train and leave. It goes back to what I said in September on the 3rd, is that based on my experience, the number one thing we need to concentrate on in security, and it was said a couple of times tonight by some of these people that spoke, is visibility. I mean, I don't know, and bear in mind, this is my first term serving, but I am familiar with the private security company we use, but I have yet found out how many employees they have, where they are distributed throughout our riding areas, because if they're not seen or they're not visible at times, then it's not going to solve the problem. And the other thing that, concerns me is, when you look at this, it concerns me that, and I understand we don't have the ability to do, any type of turnstiles or, screening to go on, but I don't understand if we don't have enough people where we can man at least one person at each one of these loading stations, and I don't mean just the bus stations, where 2 or 3 people are standing by at a bus stop, but I mean some of the main centers. If we can't, support that area with security, then we're missing the mark. And the money we're spending for security needs to be reallocated into something along those lines. Because, and it was mentioned earlier tonight during the report about the issues that went on in August. We had an individual in the Pineville area that was assaulted on August the 12th on a bus and remained in the hospital for 2 weeks, and I have yet to see any documentation on that assault. So I'm just curious, how accurate these statistics are. And like I said, I just want us to concentrate more on the safety of these people. If we're going to provide a public transit system, then it's our responsibility to provide the security to man that system. And I worry about that at times. So that's basically just what I wanted to share.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I do know that we've got to do more work around, for example, the person that you were talking about. What does that mean? How does it work? And whatever. And I don't know very much, but is there, in your situation, do your officers get the same information from CMPD that is that still workable for your officers as well in your towns?
We do, and most of
Make
the
sure that
agencies
that's done.
have MOUs set up to where they assist one another, and all information is shared as much as possible.
Okay.
And with us being, right next to CMPD, we have a good working relationship with them, and anything that goes on, we always sort of reach out in case one agency can assist the other in trying to determine or identify persons that may be responsible for something.
We talk about communications a lot. I think I was once in Atlanta, and they actually took pictures of people and put it on the bus to say these people cannot ride. I mean, there are things that we can do that I think relate to how do you communicate and how do you make sure, and I'm not sure if that's possible. Every state is different, every system is different. But I do think that if there's some opportunities to actually have other people understand that we're doing something about this, because here you can see this person is not going to be on the bus for a year or 6 months, I think it's worth thinking through some communication that we have with the people that are on the buses that are riding and are doing their very level best to do and what's right. And for those that don't, I think that we should make sure that they don't distract from those that do well.
So a couple things. As we upgrade the alert system, it will give security real-time information on the entire list instead of having to have a book of all those pictures with them. They'll have that available electronically in front of them. We also, to another point, have implemented audio messaging stating that transit is not free, fare evasion. We are looking at additional signage. We can consider posting, so to speak, the exclusion board. I do think from the technology side, there may be a better solution than posting today, and it really rests in sort of that technology. And so we are looking at that. Mayor Phillips, I will also say we acknowledge that there's two elements to this. One is visual presence. So as Mr. Osnes said, PSS is not fully staffed today, but they have a full contingent of staffing for the blue line today. And we have an additional 800 hours weekly or 20 FTE equivalent of off-duty CMPD officers. That is posted as an off-duty assignment currently, and officers are signing up for that. So that, again, is serving to increase that visual presence. To the comment about visual cues and how do you know who pays and not, we had started, and so we are at the point where we're ready to move forward. Funding, considerations, if allowed, with funding considerations. As we think through this, we are at the point to really continue moving forward, implementing validators on the platforms. A validator, as you buy your ticket, before it's activated, you have to then validate it on the platform. And again, that gives the officers the visual cue of who has and hasn't paid. It also makes it easier when they're on the train to check those tickets because you have to validate on the platform. We have been having many meetings with the vendor. We have a product ready. We're at the point where we need to do the final engineering for how to install those validators both on vehicles, the buses, as well as on the platforms of the Blue Line and Gold Line. So that work is all underway. But it is not simply all technology or all folks, it's both. And making those smart choices, working together. I do not believe that our security officers have access to criminal history data like a CMPD officer would, but we're also looking at that, and we have a mutual aid agreement moving forward on September 22nd to City Council for their approval between PSS and CMPD, which will also help us work together more closely. We do that today, but that will help all of us work together more closely.
Thank you, Brent.
Mayor Knox,
That
I'm
was just some
sorry.
of my concerns, so.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for that. Mayor Knox?
Yeah, so Eric, I want to thank you personally for the work you guys have done to step up, particularly after this tragic accident occurred. I'm reminded, since it's the 50th anniversary of the movie Jaws coming out, of when the shark attack happened and nobody wanted to go in the water, and the mayor was urging one of his councilmen to go in the water, and he had such apprehension against doing so. I've been riding the Blue Line since before I was elected mayor 8 years ago. I was not the mayor when the Blue Line extension went to UNCC, but I was at the ceremony. My wife and I come to Charlotte regularly, even though Fuda Buddha is no longer open at the Bland Street station. I found other avenues on South Boulevard and a nice wine shop in Noda that I can take the Blue Line back and forth once we drive from Charlotte to get here. I have never felt unsafe. You know, we're a big city. We're a metropolitan area of 1.2 million people now. And crime happens everywhere. What happened to Irina Zarutska was so sad and tragic, and our community, our city, our county having to shoulder that tragic event is tough on everyone. But I would tell people public safety is safe. I personally feel safe. I don't have a problem being on the rail with my wife. I take the express bus to Charlotte a lot of times. But I think situational awareness for everyone is so valuable and so important. But again, I will say to you, I ride the Blue Line on the weekends. I will continue to ride the Blue Line on the weekends or weekdays when I happen to be here. And I hope people will realize that public safety, for those that choose to use it and those that have to use it, is still the best way to get around. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments on this report on what we've been doing and thank you all for participation in this. And I know that it means a lot for us to have this kind of discussion because it really indicates that our staff and our partners are taking the action that's really required for us to do this kind of work and to be successful at it. So I want to say thank you for the team and all that we've been doing. Actually, we need now to have, I think we've done all of the work that's on our agenda. Is there anything that the members would like to address or have a comment? If not, then may we have a motion and a second to adjourn?
Make a motion.
So
In
moved.
favor? We got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, and thank you for those of you that came today to talk.